Welcome to Author Life Podcast, where myself and guest authors share their stories, offer tips and advice, and share our writing, publishing, and marketing knowledge. I'm your host, Delcherie Gladden. So before I start out, I feel like I need to explain the title of this episode a little bit more. The title is Genre Tropes Are Like Bunnies, and the reason I'm comparing them to bunnies is because we have had the summer of battling the rabbits, and bunnies are just the worst. If you have to deal with them as a pest, they are terrible. They look cute. When we first bought our house last year, we loved looking at them. They were so adorable, and now not so much. Really, they're just waiting around to destroy your grass and kill your fruit trees because they eat all the bark off of them. And I'm pretty sure the giant jackrabbits we have around the neighborhood could gnaw my ankle off if I gave them the chance. They're very creepy and very destructive. So that is the background on why I dislike wild bunnies and jackrabbits so much. They attempted to destroy our yard this summer. So, bunnies are not cool, not in this sense. And also, neither are overused genre tropes. Now, you might be asking, what is a trope? How is that different than some of the other similar terms that it sometimes gets confused for? So, a trope is a familiar and repeated, which basically means it's overused, symbol, meme, theme, motif, style, character, or thing. So basically anything that is spread throughout a particular genre. So you see these kinds of things in a lot in very genre-specific styles of writing, like young adult, mystery, certain types of formulaic romances where no matter what book you pick up, you're going to find the same elements. And this is more than just sticking to genre conventions. This is taking particular themes or styles or character types and basically just regurgitating them. You're not putting a unique spin on them. You're just using the same basic characters or ideas or what have you over and over again. So the problem with a trope is not necessarily that it kills your story, like bunnies kill your lawn or your fruit trees, but they have the potential to kill your reader's interest in your story. And why is that? Basically, when a reader picks up a book and they start reading and they see the same types of characters, the same pattern behind the storyline, the same hints that this 16-year-old nobody is destined to save anything and everything by discovering their deeply buried inner strength or power or importance or whatever. Those readers start to see how the story is going to end because they've read 12 other stories just like that. And if they know what the ending of the story and they know how the character is going to get there, it's going to be hard for them to maintain their interest. So maybe the names have changed or the setting, or maybe it's a different mythology than what you've read before. If the overall concept is still something that every other genre writer is using at the time, readers are going to pick up on that very quickly, and they're going to lose interest very quickly. So does that mean that you can never use some of these tropes in your writing? Of course not. Tropes and genre conventions, they are there for a reason, but you need to know how to use them correctly in order for them to be effective and not turn your readers away. So the key is to use a trope in its barest form. So strip whatever it is down to the essence of what makes readers connect with the trope to begin with, and then add from there. So, for instance, if you have a character who is kind of weak, doesn't have a lot of friends, unimportant in their setting or in their sphere of reality, and you want that character to become the hero, yes, that is a common genre trope that you'll see in a lot of YA fiction. Does that mean you can't use it? No. Because those are the aspects of the trope that people identify with. We've all been in a situation where we feel weak or friendless or unimportant. So we identify with those emotions and with those frustrations and with the hope that there is something better coming or that there is more to you than what other people can see. So using that very basic essence of the trope is where you'll find your connectivity with your readers. But then you want to build on it and expand from there in ways that other popular books at the time have not already used. So here's where your creativity really needs to come into play. You're starting off with that trope, but then you're taking it in a new direction that readers will appreciate while still remaining connected to the underlying concept. So another popular one, especially in romance, is starting out with the self-conscious girl who doesn't understand her own worth, who thinks she'll never find love. Okay, I've read many books that start out with a character like this. I've incorporated this trope into some of my books. So is that bad to use? Should you absolutely steer away from this type of character? No, of course not. Because it is a conventional type of character for a lot of contemporary romantic fiction, especially in kind of the chick lit or rom-com genre lately. And the reason that this trope is popular is because we've all had those moments when we're thinking we aren't good enough to find our happily ever after. We have too many faults, we've made too many mistakes, what have you. We can connect with that basic idea of the trope, but we can use that and expand on that in a variety of different ways. Not every chick lit character is a vapid shopaholic who has no goals in life and is just wandering around a big city doing whatever. That's been used a lot, but there are a lot of other ways you can go with that. And even if you are using a more kind of conventional base for your character, you need to find other ways to add in more unique qualities that are going to keep it from just being more of the same from every other book in that genre. So the problem with tropes isn't that they exist and that they're used. The problem arises when writers stop at the basic trope and they don't expand, they don't delve deeper, they don't experiment or make it unique. So if your male lead has commitment issues, which it's pretty popular, especially in some of the more dominant style romances that have been popular, especially since 50 Shades of Grey went wildly crazy. You see that a lot, but in order to avoid your reader going, oh, it's that character again, you need to also give him a real reason for his fears or his avoidance. Most readers are going to be kind of turned off by this guy is just way too awesome to be tied down, so he doesn't commit to anybody. That's not very realistic, and it's been done just way too many times. So take the time to develop a better backstory for your male lead with commitment issues and give him realistic reasons that your readers can relate to on why he might fear commitment. Another example, if your teen hero is going to save the world, that's awesome. A lot of YA fiction is based on teen heroes doing something to save the world or doing something really dramatic. But you definitely want to make him or her take a different path to get there than what you see in every other YA save the world hero kind of story. The camp, school, that's been kind of done quite a lot, starting with Harry Potter, and then we have the Percy Jackson, Camp Half-Blood. That idea of these teen heroes going from knowing absolutely nothing to being trained and unleashing their powers and all of that, that can be a really great way to do it. And if you're going to go that route, just make sure you take a different approach and are not just using the same conventions and ideas in the books that you've read and loved. Also, the mentor-mentee relationship you see a lot in YA fiction. But again, it's not bad to start there, but then take it somewhere else. I think a really good example of that is in The Giver, where you have Jonas and in The Giver, they are in a typical mentor-mentee relationship, but it takes on a very different style of how that mentoring comes about and how Jonas learns to develop and control his abilities. So start, with the tropes, with these conventions that you are familiar with that work well within the genre, but then expand on them. So a good way to approach this is to consider what new, exciting, difficult, maybe gut-wrenching ways can your characters develop into their final self. It doesn't have to be so complicated and unique and out of this world that solving the prime number equation looks easy in comparison, but it does need to be unique to your story, your character, and your plot. One of the places that using tropes really can detract from your writing is when you have a trope in mind and you're going to use it because that is a convention in whatever genre you're writing, but the character or the setting that you're using doesn't quite fit the trope. So you have this disconnect there between a convention that readers might be okay with and characters or settings or storylines that are just not meshing with the trope at all. So definitely take that into account and make sure that whatever tactics you're using, they are specific to your character, your story, and your plot. Or readers will pick up on that, and again, they'll be turned off. Working with teen writers over the summer was really interesting, and it really helped me kind of focus in on some of these ideas of using tropes. Most teen writers start out writing fan fiction. And that is a great place to start because a lot of the difficult world building and character development is already done for them because they're taking worlds and characters that they love and creating their own stories based on those. So a lot of that really time-consuming, difficult part is finished, and they can just focus on their story and developing some style and learning more about their own writing process. So writing fan fiction is a great learning experience, and it's okay that their stories often end up being kind of a mishmash of all their favorite books put together, because when you first are starting out, you're working on your craft, you're developing a style, you're figuring out what works and what doesn't work. So I love fan fiction for that aspect. It is a great writing development tool. However, as your writing skill develops, you need to move away from some of those well-worn tropes and begin experimenting with some new, fresh concepts that will take a story from something frustratingly familiar to one that stands out from all the others. And you'll see that with a lot of kind of what I would call copycat books, where you have one type of book that is just a breakout, like 50 Shades or like Twilight, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And then all of a sudden, there are 100 more books on the same topic in the same style, basically just trying to capitalize off someone else's popularity. And occasionally that works and you see multiple breakouts, but a lot of the time you don't see a follow-up breakout, because while readers are hungry for more of a particular type of books, so they'll eat up all the vampire books, all the BDSM books, they'll just gobble them up because they enjoy that. They're not going to see the same level of notoriety a lot of the time, because those writers are using the tropes of those popular books without sometimes doing the added work of fleshing it out and fully developing the unique qualities in their book. So, trying to avoid that copycat by taking your writing to the next level and using those basic tropes that we start with in a lot of genre writing, and then expanding it, making it more unique, really tailoring it to your story, your character, and your setting will help to make more of a personalized story that will speak to readers and connect with them on those basic ideas, as well as the deeper development of the story that they're hoping for. So, just like you don't want to let the bunnies destroy your grass after all the hard work you did trying to get it to grow in the first place, you also don't want to let your story get passed over because it's just more of the same. So take the time, put in the investment to really develop and flesh out those basic tropes and expand your story from more of the same to something unique and attractive to readers. Thanks again for listening to Author Life Podcast. For more information on the podcast or guest authors, check out the links in the show description. If there's a topic you'd like to learn more about, find me online and send me suggestions anytime.